Big settlement announced today between GM and the government for $900 million. This is over deadly ignition switches.
Bob Hilliard is a Texas attorney representing the families of 80 accident victims that he thinks died because of GM's defective ignition switches and 590 others who he says were injured. Robert, good morning to you. Let me ask you this. We've heard from more than one of the people who lost family members in these accidents who are frankly outraged by this settlement agreement today. They think GM has gotten past. Your thoughts?
Good morning. All of my clients that have reached out to me, some who have also issued statements, are consistent in one thought, that this is just jaw-dropping. Toyota was guilty of less but paid more. Many thought, and many being people who knew the facts behind the cover-up, thought that there would be individuals prosecuted and jail time sought by the U.S. attorney. For this fine to be so low comparatively to what General Motors is worth, just leaves my clients who have lost loved ones just shaking their head.
Yeah, in fact, there is a quote from one of the mothers who said, "We buried our loved ones because of the defect, but all GM has to do is write another check." You wanted criminal charges.
Well, not just me. I was a spokesperson for the folks whose living rooms I sat in and whose hands I held. I listened to their stories. And, I can, for example, I can tell you the story of Laura Goss, who was a third-year law student, clerking for a U.S. bankruptcy judge and president of the Innocence Project for her area. She died as a result, and her parents had become advocates for changes in the law, because right now the problem is, and I do acknowledge that the U.S. attorney is somewhat restricted as to what he can do, but the Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives could easily amend the law for the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration to give them the power to seek criminal prosecution, because that's their bailiwick. They're the ones who have to monitor and oversee the car companies. The U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York comes in after the fact and tries to piece it together, and he can prove what he thinks he can prove. So I appreciate that he feels it's difficult.
Well,
I don't agree with. I don't agree with it, but I appreciate it.
Well, the CEO of GM is saying this morning the mistakes should never have happened, but they did happen, and that doesn't bring the dead people back.
Well, more than that, not only did they happen, they were covered up for over a decade. And there's a difference between if you make a mistake today and you immediately say, "Today we made a mistake," and that's part of the story of the tragedy, and that is, as soon as the mistake was made, if they had simply fixed it. But keep in mind, they didn't fix it for years, and then they covered it up. And folks who would have never even had a defective car bought the car, sent their kids off to college in that car, and then buried their child because of it.
All right, Robert Hilliard, Texas attorney there, who represented many of those families that are speaking out today. Bob, appreciate your time again, as always.
You're welcome. Thank you.